Many of us still call our language Hogen. Literal meaning is dialect, which is not a bad thing originally because all the dialects, all Hogen is important. But the image that word gives us is less valuable compared to the standard Japanese. Therefore, many people love Hogen, but they don't want to use it outside of their comfort zone. They don't want to speak it in public. But it's not like they don't want to, but they think it's not appropriate to speak it in public. Maybe that's changing since past Governor Onaga and current Governor Denisan, they speak Uchinaaguchi at important events. But in general, many people have not so good image about Uchinaaguchi or Shimakutuba because they are Hogen, less important than Japanese. But that idea is also colonial trauma. So British scholar Basil Hall Chamberlain came to Luuchuu. He was knowledgeable in Japanese, and when he came to Luuchuu, Uchina, he studied Luuchuan languages, and he said Luuchuan languages and Japanese are sister languages. That relationship is that of between German and English. German and English have the common ancestral language, the Latin, and they separated and developed individually over centuries, now considered as distinct language, even though they share similarities. But it's the same thing, Luuchuan languages and Japanese language. In a dominant academic theory, people say they separated around in Japan, Heian Jidai, then over the long time separated and developed differently. So of course, Luuchuan languages and Japanese have similarities. There's an idea called lexicon similarity. If each language has only 100 vocabulary, Japanese and Uchinaaguchi share 60 vocabularies out of 100. That is little lower than English and German. So the higher the number, if the 100 within 100 are the same, they are the same language. Less words are the similar, then they are more different from each other. So this way of thinking is very useful. Japanese and Uchinaaguchi are similar, but look at other foreign languages. Italian and French, they are 80% similar. Still distinct language. Why? Because they are different, distinct country. This distinction between Hogen and Gengo, language and dialect, is only political. Okay, look at our case again. Now it's part of Japan, but how about times before 1879? We had independent kingdom, Ryukyu Kingdom, for at least 450 years. That's much longer than the length of our time being part of Japan. We are part of Japan only 110 something years. It is possible or made possible to call our language Nihon no Hogen only because Japan invaded and colonized our nation. Even this talk is super political, but calling it Hogen is also political, favoring Japanese colonialism. This is something I had no idea until I studied linguistics in Hawaii. So since I learned this knowledge, I have to share with my people. All it takes is very small things like discussion like this, conversation like this, hearing about Hawaiian movement. Look what they do, what they have done. We have the same or similar history. You know, both of us had our own independent kingdom and getting forcibly invaded and colonized and languages taken away. But look what Hawaiians are doing. Unless I saw that movement, I wouldn't even have thought that it would be possible to revitalize Uchinaaguchi and Luuchuu languages. We just gotta learn about what other indigenous people are doing so that we can believe it's doable.
Growing and creating safe places to be able to talk about these kinds of things and bring in people so that the interest and the pride can grow. Because it seems like still when we talk to students who go to Hawaii and they get their eyes open, and when it's time for them to go back to Okinawa, one of the things that we always hear is, oh, they don't know who they're going to talk to, because they can try to talk about those things with their friends. Their friends are not going to want to talk about political things or about language because they're totally not interested. Our people were recognized, and it was amazing. We got to participate in the Festival of the Pacific with thousands of other indigenous people from the Pacific Islands, from Oceania, that were part of in Okinawa. They recognize us as that. They look at us and they say, you know, you guys got to be proud because we have so much intelligence and great things that nobody else has. So if we look at one thing I always like to tell people is we've lost the knowledge for it, but our ancestors knew how to travel, and they knew how to navigate. Our ancestors traveled the ocean, where we had so much connections with so many different countries compared to Japan. We made so many friends with those countries that recognized us because we did navigation, because we knew how to travel on the ocean. We had that knowledge, and we had the knowledge to trade and create art, create things that we could share with the other people. So even using that not only with the language, but I think Okinawa can be such a great example for how to get along with people for peace.
For the connection with the Pacific Islanders, the Kaiyo Bunkakan, all the Luuchuu people must go. Don't worry about Churaumi Aquarium. Much more educational, much more inspirational, and you can spend all day watching all the exhibitions and reading about those cultures.
We're connected to Micronesians. We're connected to the Maori people in Aotearoa. We're connected to Hawaiians. We're connected to Tahitians. We're connected to indigenous people in Taiwan. It doesn't make us any less. We should be proud of that, because after the takeover by Japan, that they made us ashamed of who we are by telling us you were savages because we have hajichi, we have a different hairstyle and different language, different way of living. And they forced our ancestors to be like them by making them ashamed of who we are. That's part of any indigenous people, that the dominant country always tries to do that. So they can also, keeping control is important for the dominant countries. So they keep on trying to suppress the indigenous people of that place.
Graduate school in Hawaii, what I do is learning about what or how Hawaiians are doing and apply it here. So yeah, my approach is through education. The best thing will be creating some school system, right? It's hard for Luuchooans who were born and raised in Luuchuu, Uchinaaguchi, and get that kind of interest by themselves, because I didn't even care. So there needs to be some kind of system giving the choice to students to learn about our history, language, and culture. Yeah, the problem is we don't have that option.
I think to have to maybe think about how we can think of our identity. I don't really like to describe it as indigenous, because we didn't describe ourselves as indigenous. We just knew we're connected to the land and connected to our ancestors. But I think if we can also think about how we can make it part of our everyday life, also use one word at a time every day, and then make it grow to 2 words, 3 words. Use it with grandparents, use it with your parents, use it with the children. Also in Okinawa, if you don't use the higher level of the language, don't scold them. Let them use it and then learn the proper way as they grow. But I think if you're too, we scold and you say, oh, you're not supposed to do that, then it'll discourage from using it. And I think in Okinawa, because there's so many different languages, there's 6 different languages, but many different dialects, it should be okay for everybody to use their own. It's going to be hard to say, oh, we need one language for whole of Ryukyu or whole of Okinawa. Our ancestors used the many languages when they came to Naha to do their business. It's just, we need to look at that and appreciate each other's culture and language. Use it every day, because talking to the elders, like today, language is something that is alive. It's not just in a book or something you say. It's with your breath. It's part of our identity, and that language that you use, Uchinaaguchi or whatever of the other 6 languages from Ryukyuan language, it connects us to our ancestors. And those songs that you sing for Yesa also connects to the ancestors too, because they use the same songs before. And when you sing that song or say those words, you're bringing that time back again. It's like it's like going into a time machine. There's no past, there's no future, but there's now, that time that you're in, and it connects everything. It connects the past and what's going to be.
クガニクトゥバで、クトゥバワシーネ、ウヤワシウ、ウヤワシーネ、クニンワシウ。If we forget the language, we forget our parents. And that also means we are forgetting our nation. And that is what's happening to us right now. Kind of reverse that. Through learning the language, it's kind of like bringing back our connection to the land and ancestors. And you could say the connection to our nation.
I just wanted to also remind everybody that how Kotaro has made a commitment to his education to help Okinawa. I encourage any of the young generation, Shimanchu, Luuchuu no Kwa, to continue education, because we need our voice in education, in academia, because there's too many of the not Okinawa, not Luuchuans who are teaching our history, who are teaching who we are or telling us who we are. And it's all things that are not correct. We should be teaching our own curriculum, our own programs in the educational systems, in academia, because it's ours, it's who we are. It shouldn't be a non-Okinawan or a non-Luuchuan teaching. This is our space, it's our history, it's our language, and we have to claim it again.
The town called Hilo on the big island of Hawaii. So Hilo, Hilo, the University of Hawaii at Hilo, is famous for indigenous language and culture revitalization program, only available at the graduate level. Only program available in the whole United States. Yeah, even though Hawaii is separate. I would definitely recommend. The department is called Kahakaula o Ke'elikolani, Department of Hawaiian Language. The mission is, well, Hawaiian people have progressed their language revitalization so much, even though it's not enough yet. They are kind of moving on to helping other indigenous people like us, Luuchuans, and Native Americans and Samoans, and we can learn so many things, so many valuable lessons and insights that we can use here.
It's a really good program because you get to meet other people, Native people from different communities, Native Americans, Maori, Chamorro, Samoan, even from Catalan. It's a great way to meet other indigenous people and talk with them and see what they're going through and share a lot with them. Awesome program, University of Hawaii at Hilo. I think also identity too. Cannot always say that it's just the language, because if we look at our identity, like going to the pavilion at the Chiromi, the Oceanic Pavilion, and you look at the exhibits there and you see the similarities that we have with other people in Oceania. The same kind of fish hooks, the same kind of nets, the same kinds of sea voyaging vessels, canoes, the same kinds of the fish ponds. You don't see that in Japan. So totally different culture already. People like to always say, or especially there's Japanese scholars that say, oh, it's the migration that came from Japan. And you can see the evidence right there that we did not come from Japan. Because of the evidence that we have in archaeological finding, Japan wanted to claim that, yeah, we're part of them because of skeletal remains, but it was proven from the skeletal remains that we have in Okinawa that's thousands of years more older than any Japanese. So those kinds of things I think we should be proud about. And then also to the younger generation now who's coming up and having these interests to find their identity and maybe help to revitalize too. You cannot start from where you want to start and look at what you want to do to revitalize. We always have to bring our elders with us and our ancestors to move forward, or else you're going to create a different identity. It's going to go off. So it's always good, to remind that everybody knows that song Chinsagu Hana, where we talk about looking at the North Star and how that represents our ancestors, that we look towards our ancestors and our ancestors look towards us. Nino Habushimiati. Yeah, to always think about that and take that knowledge, what we call ancestral knowledge, with us to move forward, so that bringing back some of those things that were taken away from us, that we need to go forward doing it. And it's good that it's coming back, but also think about really the meaning of it and how it should be done, so that our ancestors can come back and recognize it as same thing. Yeah.